The 2025 Australian Open women's draw is out, and all eyes are on Aryna Sabalenka to see whether she can achieve the three-peat in Melbourne, something that has not been done since Martina Hingis in 1999. Sabalenka could meet her biggest threat to the title in Coco Gauff in the semifinals, as the American is currently in the best form heading down under. In the bottom half reside Elena Rybakina and Iga Swiatek, who have more favorable draws. Now, two-time champion Naomi Osaka was not afforded that same kindness from the draw gods. Hey, I'm Christian Bassnight, and welcome to Christian's Court, where I cover tennis from all angles. If you have not yet already, make sure you subscribe and click that notification bell so you join Christian's crew. Also, so you are notified whenever I post my men's Australian Open draw preview. Now, getting into the projected quarterfinals, we first have Sabalenka and Zheng, then Americans Gauff and Pegula could face off, Rybakina and Paolini, and then Navarro and Swiatek. There are three people who are vying for the world #1 ranking. Of course, Sabalenka already has it, but actually Swiatek has the best chance at finishing this tournament as the world #1, as she will start with it over a 300-point lead over Sabalenka. Now, Sabalenka needs to make at least the quarterfinals to even have a chance at retaining that world #1 ranking. Now, if she wins the title, the ranking is hers regardless. Coco would first have to win the title to be #1, and then she'd also have to hope for Iga to lose before the second round and Sabalenka before the semifinals. Now, getting into Sabalenka's section, all eyes were drawn to that opening round match that she has against Sloane Stephens. Of course, Sloane is a Grand Slam champion. She won the 2017 US Open, but Sloane has not won a match since Wimbledon, so she is definitely far from that slam winning form. I see her losing streak continuing against Sabalenka. Now, the third round is where things get a bit more interesting for the Belarusian, as Sabalenka could face either Linda Noskova, the 29th seed, or Clara Tauson. Noskova beat Swiatek here in the third round of the Australian Open last year, so she is dangerous. And then Tauson, she is coming off a title in Auckland. Yes, Naomi retired mid-match, but still a title is a title, so either one of those opponents could be a little bit tricky for the Belarusian, but I still think that Sabalenka should clear regardless of whoever she faces in that round. Now, Mira Andreeva would probably await Sabalenka in the fourth round. Boskova in the first round for Mira could be a little bit tricky, and then also Mira has struggled a little bit in the slams since she beat Sabalenka in the Roland Garros quarterfinals last year. Now, also, Polina Kudermetova, she qualified, is in the main draw. She faces Magdalena Frech in the opening round. She's really been on fire. She made the Brisbane finals and took a set off of Sabalenka. So maybe she can go on another run here, but I do think with all the tennis that she has played, I don't see that happening, even though she has the game for it. Still, I think that Mira would progress to the fourth round, but I see Sabalenka beating her in straight sets like she did at the Brisbane semifinals last week. My quarterfinal pick obviously will be Sabalenka to come through. Next is Qinwen Zheng's section, and Zheng is obviously a finalist from last year, and she has not played a real match since the WTA Finals final, where she lost to Coco in 3 tight sets. She did play an exhibition match against Elena Rybakina, which she looked very good in, although she did have a compression arm sleeve though, so that's something to look out for as the tournament progresses. I don't see her really getting tested too much in the first week for real. Laura Siegemund and Hailey Baptiste are crafty players, but I still think that Zheng should be fine. There is a potential fourth round match that could be interesting for Qinwen, as Dana Schneider is solid, as is Dona Vekic, who of course pushed Zheng very much in their US Open fourth round from last year. 2023 Wimbledon champion Marketa Vondrousova is there as well, but she's really a question mark after she retired from injury in Adelaide. I see Vekic coming through to face Qinwen again, and I believe the Chinese woman will get the better of her yet again. Now, going over to Coco Gauff section, as I mentioned in the intro, Coco is in the best form coming into this Australian Open, as she went undefeated at the United Cup and beat Iga in the finals. She does have an interesting first round against Sofia Kenin, who won this very slam 5 years ago. The last time they played in the first round of a major as well, Kenin upset Gauff at Wimbledon in 2023. I don't see this happening again this time around. Kenin, I think, even though she did lose pretty handily just to Maya Joint in Hobart, I still think this should be a little bit of a test for Coco, as she tends to play better against the top players in on the big stages. I really do feel bad for Kenin, side note, because she's now faced a slam champion in the opening rounds of 4 of the last 5 majors, which is just insane luck. Aside from that, Coco's first week draw looks pretty decent. She could face Leylah Fernandez again, who she dominated at the United Cup. I don't really see Fernandez posing too much difficulty for Gauff again should they play. Now, the 4th round is where things get very interesting, as there is a loaded section down there below. Karolina Muchova there will likely face the winner of Naomi Osaka and Caroline Garcia in the 2nd round. And Osaka and Garcia, they actually played here in the first round last year, which Garcia took in straight sets. Caroline poked fun at this on Twitter, but I'm not sure Naomi will be laughing too much about this. Then towards the bottom, we have another firecracker round 1 match between Belinda Bencic and Elena Ostapenko. I think Muchova will be the favorite here to come through. She looked solid at the United Cup when she made the semifinals, and she did beat Naomi in the 2nd round of the US Open. There are questions too about Naomi and her health after she retired mid-match of the Auckland finals due to an apparent abdominal strain. It might be too early for Belinda Bencic to go deep at a major, to be honest. She still is coming back from maternity leave, but you never know, and I think she has the game definitely to beat Ostapenko. I do think it's going to be between Ostapenko and Muchova in that 3rd round match, and I will give the edge to the Czech there to go ahead and face Coco. Now, Muchova has not won a single set against Gauff in their 4 previous matches. I feel like that could possibly change in Melbourne, and I wouldn't be surprised if she did get her lick back here and beat Coco. This really could be the time that Muchova finally does it. But right now, I got to go with the informed Gauff still to make the Elite 8. Next, another American section is Jessica Pegula's, and we have a Badosa Koscheck 3rd round. It looks like we'll likely have that. Now, neither are really in excellent form for real, but I think the Badosa would win that match if they played. Now, looking at Jessica Pegula's little section, she has a sneakily tricky draw. She opens up against 18-year-old Aussie Maya Joint, who is currently on a tear in Hobart, only dropping 11 games en route to the semifinals. I would not be surprised if Joint pulled off the upset there. Then there's Elisa Mertens potentially looming in round 2 for Pegula. Ludmila Samsonova is playing great right now too. She's currently in the Adelaide semifinals. She could face Pegula in the 3rd round. You also can't forget about lefty Olga Nedolovic as well. Pegula has looked relatively solid thus far in Adelaide, where she's currently in the semifinals. So with her to be being the most solid player in this section, I think it's going to be a comfortable, safe pick for her to move through to the quarterfinals. Now, transitioning to the bottom half, there's Elena Rybakina's draw at the top, and I think it's a great draw for the 6th seed. She could play 2 teams in a row to open up her campaign. First, 16-year-old Emerson Jones, the Aussie, and then 17-year-old Eva Jovic. In the 3rd round, Rybakina is projected to face Diana Yastremska, who is a semifinalist from last year. I think that still Rybakina should clear her and Lulu Soon if she faces her in that 3rd round. Now, the 4th round is where I think that Rybakina will have a good test, as she could face either one American in either Madison Keys or Danielle Collins. I think that she will play Maddie instead of Danielle, as Collins is not on great form, isn't high on confidence, currently riding a 6-match losing streak. Keys is a great player, and she always saves her best tennis for the slams, so I really see her making another slam 2nd week. Now, Rybakina is the better player, so on paper, you say that she should make the quarterfinals, but she seemed to run into issues at the slams lately, it seems. And there's also all that off-court drama with Vukov, and she did threaten to boycott the tournament if Vukov wasn't allowed to be in her box. So you really never know with Elena Rybakina. She did play very well at the United Cup, where she made the semifinals and pushed Iga to two tight sets in that match. But I just cannot hinge my bets on her right now, I'm afraid. So I'm going to be putting Madison Keys through to the quarterfinals. She's playing well right now. She's currently in the Adelaide semifinals, and I think that's a solid pick. Below this section is Italian Jasmine Paolini, the 4th seed. In my opinion, Paolini has the best draw by far out of the top 4 seeds. Really, there are no big major threats here. Taylor Townsend's there, my girl, but she really hasn't played much singles lately. Alina Svitolina, to be brutally honest, she's kind of washed right now. Sorana Cristea really shouldn't be too much of a problem either. I think Katie Bolzer would be the favorite there to meet Paolini in the 4th round. Katie looked solid at the United Cup, where she pushed Iga to 3 tight sets in the quarterfinals, Beatrice Haddad-Maia has not won a match this year yet. Erica Andreeva, I feel, could take her out there in the second round. Rebecca Marino, I think, though, could be dangerous for Bolter. She's a big serving Canadian. Katie also has not made a slam second week, so she could be upset again. I was going to have her into the quarterfinals for real, but I'm going to be sensible and pick Paolini to progress to the Elite Eight instead. Now, Emma Navarro's section by far has the most opportunity, and I think that's where we'll see a surprise quarterfinalist. It is quite the interesting mini section here for Navarro, as it will be a battle of the former NCAA champions between her and Peyton Stearns. Stearns has looked solid thus far this year, so I can honestly see her go ahead and get the upset and go on a little bit of a run here down under. Sakari and Jabeur, that's a possible third round opponent for Navarro if she even makes it that far. I could see Maria Slam struggles continuing for real. I don't think that she'll make the second week. I think Jabeur really has a better shot to progress there. Now, even though she's the top ranked player here in this section, I would be surprised if Navarro made it through to the second week, honestly. I'm going to go with Jabeur instead to move through. There's just really slim pickings here, as none of these players, aside from really, to be honest, Stearns, is in that great in form. I think our quarterfinalists will be decided between the Putintseva and Avanesian first round match. Both Yulia and Elena are playing solid tennis right now. Avanesian is in the semifinals of Hobart. Putintseva is in the Adelaide semifinals. So I think that's going to be a great match, and I will give the slight edge to Avanesian. Auntie Qinwen Zheng is there too, and she looks solid in her United Cup match against Coco Gauff. Kazakina, she has a great chance to do something, but she does not typically do well in majors, so I don't see her making the quarterfinals. I'm going to stick with Avanesian actually to be our surprise quarterfinalist here in this section. Now, finally is Iga Swiatek's section, and I think it looks pretty good for the second seed. The biggest threat here in this entire section, in my opinion, is in the third round. Katerina Alexandrova is her projected seeded opponent. Ekaterina beat her in Miami when they faced off there last year. She's a hard hitter, so Iga tends to struggle against those type of opponents, although Ekaterina might not even make it that far, as she has a tough opening round matchup against Emma Raducanu. Raducanu, she did pull out of Auckland due to injury, but the streets say that she looked good in practice, so I wouldn't be surprised if she got that upset over Alexandrova. It really wouldn't be an upset, but yeah, if she got that win over the Russian. Amanda Anisimova is another possible third round opponent for Swiatek, but Amanda has question marks around her as she pulled out of the Hobart quarterfinals, so she might not be 100% herself. If Iga loses before the semifinals, I think it's going to be here in the third round, to be honest. Anna Kalinskaya, brutally honest, is not hitting on nothing, and I could see Kim Burrell upsetting her, as Burrell looked great thus far in Australia. I think she made the Brisbane quarterfinals or she made the quarterfinals of Brisbane, so I see that being an upset for her. Maybe Auntie Azarenka can make one big push here, but I don't know. I mean, her draw looks decent. I think she should make the fourth round, but as far as her beating Iga, maybe. I perhaps I could see it a little bit, but I could more or less see a surprise third round loss, another surprise third round loss for Iga. Iga has struggled a little bit around this part of the slams, especially at the non-Roland Garros slam. She has not made a slam semifinal since she won the 2022 U.S. Open. Of course, that's non-Roland Garros slam, so some people are calling for an upset there, but I'm going to stay safe and stick with Swiatek to make it through to the quarterfinals. Giving my final predictions, of course, in the semifinals, I will have Sabalenka and Gauff facing off for the second straight year, and then Madison Keys going up against Iga Swiatek. In the finals, I have a United Cup final rematch between Coco and Swiatek, and I'm going to stick with the same result of having Coco win it to claim her second slam trophy. Addressing my snubs, first is Zheng Qinwen. Her section is not the easiest, but I still think that she'll progress through. I was honestly very, very close to having her knock out Sabalenka in that quarterfinal, because even though she is 0-5 against her, she's been doing much better in those matchups lately, and I think that she'll have the confidence, a little bit more confidence, to beat Big Lenka. But I refrained from giving her that big win because Sabalenka does have just a different aura about her at the slams, and especially at the Australian Open. Even though her Brisbane form wasn't all that impressive, I think that she'll once again peak well in time for the slam. Of course, she loves Melbourne. She's only dropped one set here in the past 2 years. Karolina Muchova, Naomi Osaka, and Elena Ostapenko, and Belinda Bencic, of course, would all be tricky fourth round matchups for Coco. Again, I would not be really that shocked if either of those four women took her out in that round, but Again, Coco would only have to play one of these women, and there's a chance that none of them will progress, although I think that's very highly unlikely for that to happen. Like I mentioned before, I don't think it's impossible for Muchova to get her lick back here. Her matches with Coco, I think, are a little bit more tight than what the scoreline entails. Also, Naomi can for sure be dangerous here with her power. Same thing with Elena Ostapenko, who beat Coco in the 4th round here at the Australian Open back in 2023. I definitely wouldn't be shocked if this round is where it ends for Coco, but I'm going to stick with the American to progress. I think that she's just too full of confidence right now and is probably playing her best tennis. I was going to have Badosa instead of Pegula come through in that section, but I believe, again, Jessie is the most solid player here despite that potentially tricky opening round against Joint. And overall, she has a little bit of a challenging draw, so I wouldn't be surprised if she honestly didn't make it out of the first week. Now, Pegula herself, I did snub low-key, as I wouldn't be surprised, too, if she beat her former doubles partner, Gauff, in the quarterfinals. She does tend to do well against Coco whenever they play, so perhaps she could get another win over Gauff, but I'm going to be sticking with Coco still here to progress through to the semifinals. Marta Kostyuk is there, too, but I don't see her making a second consecutive Aussie Open quarterfinal. Elena Rybakina is one of the bigger snubs for sure. She played great at the United Cup, and really she should make the semifinals on paper. But again, with all of her off-court drama and the possibility of her just not being reliable health-wise, it's just hard for me, again, to really bank on her of going deep here. The Collins snub, I don't feel bad at all about because, again, she's very low in confidence. Jasmine Paolini, she always just seems to be overlooked, and perhaps she could make yet another slam final. I could see it, honestly, and she tends to do well at the slams as well, so she has a great draw to do so why not Paolini making another slam final and maybe even going all the way, who knows. Emma Navarro's draw is not that favorable, and again, I would be surprised if she did go deep with the slam, but there tends to be a trend with her, as she finished 3rd round at the Australian Open in 2024, Roland Garros 2024, she finished 4th round, Wimbledon quarterfinals, US Open semifinals, so if the trend continues, she'll finish at the finals here at the Australian Open, but with her draw, I don't see it happening, to be honest. She does tend to like the slams and elevate her level for the major, so you never know, though. Again, Azarenka, Alexandrova, Raducanu, and Anisimova, I think, could all take Iga out, perhaps, but Johnson, I think, is in too solid of a form for that to happen. Now, why Coco winning this title? First, I think Coco, obviously, to me, is clearly in the best form coming into the slam. Also, if she makes it through to the semifinals to face Sabalenka, I think that I would definitely favor Coco there. Gauff is just a bad matchup for Sabalenka, plain as day. She pushed her to 2 tight sets last year, and Coco is a better player now than she was in 2024 at the Australian Open. If Coco doesn't make the semifinals, Aryna's chances of a three-peat are much greater for sure, and I think her title defense really hinges on Coco losing earlier and not making the Final Four. Iga really should make the finals. Her draw is favorable, and she showed impressive form at the United Cup. I think that she'd be able to handle whatever round 3 opponent comes her way, because she showed that she can handle the bigger hitters in Sydney. Rybakina, again, would be a threat there if she were to somehow come through and make the semifinals, but again, I don't see it happening. I was kind of close to having Madison Keys make the finals instead of Iga, very close, but then I remembered that Madison has played 2 lead-up tournaments, and that's just a lot of tennis, and I feel like Madison is definitely injury-prone, so with all that tennis she's played, I don't know if I see her progressing past the semifinals and going all the way. Now, with a possible Gauff Sabalenka final, it was really a toss-up for me to pick. I think it would be a great one for sure if it does happen. I believe with this Coco 3.0 that we've witnessed lately, the previous head-to-head history isn't as much of a factor. I was very, very close to having Iga win this Australian Open, but I did have Coco as my champion when I had my 2025 overall slam prediction, so I'm going to stick with my girl and have her winning the slam, the first slam of the year. Coco does better when she is under the radar, flying under the radar, and is a little bit of an underdog. So now that she's more in the spotlight after winning Beijing, the WTA Finals, and the United Cup, more people are going to be gunning for her, and the pressure is going to be more on for the American for sure. I don't know how she'll be able to handle the pressure. She did not handle the pressure well at all at Wimbledon when all the top seeds fell early. So it's going to be a big test for her, but I think she can pass it. So that's why I'm going to have her still lifting that Daphne Akhurst Memorial Trophy by the end of the next 3 weeks or so. That is it for my Australian Open women's prediction and preview video. And let me know if you agree with me having Coco and Iga in the finals with Coco winning the title. If not, let me know who you think will win instead. Also, again, make sure you subscribe and click the notification bell so you are notified whenever I drop my men's Australian Open preview video as well. Thank you all so much for watching and for your support, and I'll see you all next time here on Christian's Court.